Hello, welcome back to Galactic Reviews. And we watched Invincible season 1, or I did for the first time more recently. Thomas had watched it a while ago and
I've
rewatched it
seen
with
it.
me.
I've seen it
What
twice, and then
You
I
watched
didn't really
most of it
rewatch
with
it.
me, slept through
I saw
a
parts
little
of
bit.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I slept. I was tired.
Initial thoughts. I do like the premise of it. I like the main character. I like
hmm
I like Mark. I like Nolan. There's so many characters I like. A lot of them I like. So I'm gonna get to the characters I
Yeah,
dislike.
get to the ones that you don't like.
I dislike Amber, or at least this version
Amen.
of Amber. Um,
Amen, brother.
she's she's an she's annoying, self-centered, and a bit of a prick a lot of the time.
Talk to him.
And you think it's all due to her not knowing Mark. It's due to Mark ignoring her because she doesn't know he's invincible, the superhero Invincible. So she just doesn't know. So when Mark eventually does decide to tell her, you find out she already knew, which then which then makes you hate her even more
Yeah,
because you thought maybe there was some sympathy towards her, but then it goes to, oh, she already knew that. So
yeah,
she already knew that. So she's just being a dogmatic prick.
yeah. That is. I remember. I remember we watched the scene where Mark reveals his identity, and then she's like, "Oh, I already knew," and she's still like mad at him and stuff. And I remember turning to you and I'd be like, "Don't you just hate her?"
And I
Yeah,
hated her before. I didn't like her character. I thought she was annoying.
yeah. I
But
didn't
that
really hate
just
her before,
made
but I definitely hated her then.
I didn't like her, but now I hate
Okay.
her. I'd say there's a difference. I didn't like her before,
I got you.
but I hated her after that. William, Mark's best friend, I also disliked him. I don't hate him as much as Amber, but I dislike him. I don't care that much
hmm
for him. It has nothing to do with the
hmm
character being gay. I just dislike the character entirely. Can also come off as a
Yeah.
bit of a prick.
hmm
Adam Eve, I don't mind her. I thought she was good for the most part, except for that one scene where she's also berating Mark for the way he handled the Amber situation, even though it's completely unjustifiable as to how Amber treats him. Yeah, that whole situation, every character that it touched, that whole situation, every character that touches got tainted a little bit. Amber for the
Yeah.
most part,
And like,
William also, but Adam Eve also does give her 2 cents in that thing. So I can't exactly just let that one slide, even though I like her character. I don't necessarily like the way that they've handled the parents and how they don't want her to be a superhero and all that stuff. I don't like how that was handled. I'm hoping
mm,
that'll be handled better on in season 2.
wait, you don't like the parents?
I don't like Adam Eve's parents. I should specify.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point kind of those parents. You're
Yeah,
not
but
supposed to like them.
I get that, but there's a better way to go about it instead of just they make it seem like their point of view is unjustifiable and make it like a radical point of view, whereas trying to get that certain point of view into
I can kind of see what you're saying, but after the Adam Eve special, I hate the parents so much, dude.
okay,
I don't
well,
like the mom is okay. The dad is just the dad ha the dad has some crazy statements that are just wild. I don't like the dad.
there's just
And
I don't like the way that they did the parents for that. Now, I don't know if it's the same way in the comic book. You would be probably more inclined to tell me whether or not that's the same case. But
we haven't seen her I haven't seen her parents yet.
okay, that might be later on down the line.
Yeah,
But
I guess.
yeah,
They do some things out of order in the
okay,
comic book in the show,
yeah. Well, I
but
figured that much.
nothing's bad. Nothing's bad. I like everything. I in the show and the comic book, there hasn't been a moment where it's like, oh, that's weird. I don't like that. You know, I haven't
Yeah.
really had that. I like everything so far. I'm gonna move my camera actually. Look at that. I like the show. What do you give it out of 10, season one?
Mm, I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it an 8. I do like the
Mm,
story. There are just some problems I have with it. I also think the animation for the most part it's good, except for the like for the it's nothing it's nothing great, it's nothing bad. For the most part, it's just middle of the road good animation. Um I
I
do
rewatched
I do have to
I
say
rewatched the part. Hold on, real quick.
okay, yeah, go ahead.
While we're on the topic of animation, I rewatched the part that you talked about in the last episode where you see all the civilians running after them have a big fight. And you are correct. That does look 3D rendered.
Yeah,
That looks. It doesn't throw me off a lot, but it does. I
it
looked at that
doesn't
and I
throw
was
me
like,
off either,
shoot.
but I was just like, I was
He's
just like,
right.
wow, they made a shortcut there, and ooh, another shortcut, and another shortcut.
Yeah.
So,
No, I get what you're saying.
and I was
I
just at
rewatched that
that
and I was
point, I
like,
was
oh,
like,
he had a
okay, they were
point.
rushing this. They were wanting to get this out relatively quickly because I think it's only in that last
Yeah.
episode with the big crowds and stuff. So
It might be another one where it might be just when they show big crowds, but I don't know.
it might be, but
But
that was the
yeah,
one I
I just want to point
noticed.
out that I
That was just
recognize your correctness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the
for
only one
sure.
that I noticed. I will say one thing that I
Hmm.
do have a problem with in the animation, at least the way they're doing it. Other than that, is the talking. It's just this a lot of the time. It's not like they're going into moving the mouth a lot like where like the mouth is expanding, contracting, kind of going. It just
Yeah.
feels a lot like just straight up just puppetry kind of talk, opening and closing of the mouth. So it
Yeah,
doesn't
I don't.
happen. It doesn't happen all the time. There are some times when they do it good animation wise, especially when the scene needs it. But for the most part, that part feels mainly bland, and that kind of threw me off a little
Yeah.
bit. But the rest of it, it's all right. Um, it does feel a bit cartoony as far as the look of it, but I also understand that's the way that the comic book looks. So they're kind of trying to be
Hmm.
um faithful in the adaptation of that, and I do appreciate that. Yeah, I'd
Cool.
say I'd say it's an 8. If it was, I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it a 7.5. I'm gonna bring it
Oh
down a half a
wow.
point because of the 6th episode.
Yeah, that's fair.
That episode was unnecessary for the
No,
most
the episode was fine. One sentence was unnecessary for me.
most
You
most
know
of
what I'm
that
talking
stuff was
about.
unnecessary. Yeah, most of that gay stuff was unnecessary. That's the gay episode, everyone.
Yeah,
So
for real. I mean, I agree a lot with what you're saying with the cons. Maybe not. It doesn't really affect me as much with the animation and stuff like that. But
well, it
this
doesn't.
show for me
Yeah,
gets a 10 out of 10. Um, and I know that to you that might seem generous, but they do something so perfectly well. And it's just like, so like you went into it and I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you knew Omni-Man was bad stuff, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I went into this show, first time watching it, knew nothing about it. All I heard was like some people were saying, oh, it's really good, but I didn't know any of like the twists and turns, anything like that. The end of the first episode where I see Omni-Man just brutally take down the Guardians of the Globe, I got hooked on it immediately and it was really good. And I think they just made the perfect twist villain kind of because like it's a twist but you know that he's the bad guy but everyone around you doesn't and it was like so interesting watching that play out in such a and I think that like the writing in that was just outstanding like it was like I would give that an 11 out of 10 if I could which I think that's why it makes up for some of the other things in this show which is why I give it a 10 out of 10 because it like balances out
Yeah, it
but
does a
like
good job.
the way that you see the character dynamic with Nolan and Debbie, Nolan and Cecil, and Nolan and like the other heroes and even Mark too. It's like that's one thing. Like the twist villain, they did that better in the show than in the comic. Because in the comic, you're like you'd be finding out about you. So like the end scene where Nolan kills the Guardians, that'd be in like episode like 4 or like 5, kind of. Like, you know what I mean? Like it
Okay.
was kind of in like the middle of that like part to where like you don't really get the same build up and then like you don't get the same buildup of like people are starting to find out, no one has to make a move type deal. It
Mm.
was kind of like it was kind of really sudden in the comic, which it was still good in the comic. Like no hate there. Like they still did it really well, but that was really good.
Yeah,
Episode 8 just gets huge points for me too because of mostly the train scene and like Mark getting beaten down and just like I think it was a really beautiful moment when it was like where it was like where Nolan was like, "What will you have after 500 years?" And Mark was like, "You, Dad, I'd still have you." That was really great. That was straight from the comic. One thing that wasn't from the comic that I was surprised about was the train sequence. Um,
yeah, that's
you know
one
what I'm
thing I
talking
will
about?
complain about.
That
Uh,
wasn't in the comic, and I really liked that in the show. That was really good because it just shows how like brutal he can be, you know?
I like it, but at the same time, I dislike it because I know where this is gonna go. Because I've watched YouTube videos on the whole story of the Invincible character and his universe and stuff. So I'm trying not to spoil anything
Hmm.
for you, but they kind of show
Please
at the
don't.
eighth episode. They show a little bit of at the end of the eighth episode. They little show a little bit of a uh, that Nolan has been affected by his time on Earth and by his son Mark,
Hmm.
and that
Hmm.
there's a possibility of him being able to be redeemed to some degree,
Yeah.
maybe. But I think with that scene of the train and it being that dark, I think that might
Yeah.
hinder that transformation more than it would than most of the other stuff would, because most of the other stuff that happens is more so just happenstance because of their fight. It just that
Hmm.
stuff, the building happened to fall, the avalanche happened to come to happen because of their fight. That was one thing where Nolan deliberately took Mark and made him go up head on against the train. So that one
Mm.
I feel like hurts is what could be his sort of transformation arc that would possibly undergo later on. But um, I
Yeah.
I understand why you like the scene. I just think it might hurt it. It I just think it causes more harm than good to what they're looking like they're trying to do with that character.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we'll talk about it more in the season 2 review, but
yeah,
in season 2, I feel like I don't know how much you know, but obviously this is common knowledge, so it's not really a spoiler. J.K. Simmons is in season 2. So you knew that before the show came out. So it
yep,
was like, so I mean, you see him in it obviously, and I just don't think like it's really hindering the redemption arc. Like some things probably would need to be addressed and how like some stuff is like unforgivable and stuff like that. Like things like that, like you can't just like put a YouTube apology video out there and
yeah,
expect everything to be okay. But
yeah,
I don't think like I just it's not gonna be like a Zuko character arc where you're gonna be like loving him and like you're gonna view him as like the same level as Aang and stuff. Like you're not gonna view Nolan as like the good guy, but like I think you can still view him as like a good guy if you show the course of like a transformation over time,
yeah. It
you
just
know?
makes this a little bit harder for that transformation to take place because, at least in my opinion, just because Nolan originally only killed the Guardians because, at least from what I gathered, was because that they need to see him as the hero that they need to rely upon, and they can't do that with those heroes being there as well.
No, it was to weaken Earth for the incoming of for like the coming of the Viltrum Empire. Like his whole purpose is to, like weaken Earth. And like yeah, he's supposed to be that shining light, so like he gets Earth to not resist, but he's mostly just weakening it. That was the Guardians. That was the purpose of the
Okay,
killing
well,
the Guardians.
either way, that was him
Yeah.
killing those people because he had to, not because he wanted to. Whereas on the train, he deliberately takes Mark and says, "Let's have fun, kid."
Oh yeah, he wanted to.
So it's
Oh yeah,
it's
he wanted to.
it's
But
not
yeah.
like
No, I get
I
what you're saying though.
yeah. Whereas it's kind of hinted towards in his talk with his wife that that was just what he had to do. Like he didn't like that he had to do it because he
Hmm.
actually came seemed like he actually somewhat became friends with them, but he didn't like that he had to do that. So and you
Yeah.
kind
I
of
mean,
see
like,
that sort of remorse less so with that train scene.
yeah. But also, you still see the remorse in like the very end too, where like he flies away and he doesn't
Yes,
kill
yes.
Mark like
And
he
that's
said he
where I
would.
think that train scene hurts it. Whereas I think with him, whereas with the rest of it, if you take out that scene, I think it works better. But I understand why that scene is liked because it's decently animated.
And
So
I think it works better with the scene, but yeah, I mean, to each their own. It, I'm just glad that like this show is like it has such small points to like find disagreements about, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for the
But
most
isn't
part, I
Amber the
think
worst?
most people
Oh,
disagree with
also,
Amber.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, like that's like I haven't seen one Amber defender at all. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
everyone kind of universally agrees that she's the worst. Will isn't gay in the comic book.
I believe he is. I think it just takes
Nope.
longer.
It might take longer, but so far he's with a female in a relationship. So
If I remember correctly from because I know like overall
yeah,
Invincible comic book stuff, which is why I know a lot of the stuff that will probably happen later on, which is trying to
which
kind of be, yeah, which is why I'm trying to not
I
say
don't
much of
know that.
anything.
I might know it. I might know it later after I read more stuff, but
Yeah.
so far I don't.
Well, the way you're flying through
But
that
so far,
compendium one, you're gonna get there
I'm
way
not
well
finished with
before
it
I
yet.
do. I just
Yeah.
don't know
Well,
like the
so
little
far, yeah.
like the
But so far
individual
he's not
bits
gay.
and pieces. So
Yeah. I mean, Amber has less of a role so far in the comics too. But I don't know. I don't want to say I like Amber because I don't, but like she brings an interesting dynamic to the story, right?
yeah, and I wouldn't
Like,
mind that. It's just the way that they made her so unlikable.
yeah. But like if you really squint your eyes and look past it, there is a silver lining. But it's
Yeah,
hard to find because she's a butt, so you know.
yeah. Well, so is William's character a lot,
William.
but he's not completely reprehensible like Amber is.
Yeah. I will say both William and Amber are I don't want to say like treated better. I don't know. But like
They're
they
better in
kind
the
of
comics.
they kind of pump the brakes. Well, no. Well, that yeah, but they kind of pump the brakes with just Amber being Amber in season 2. So,
Okay. Well, I think that was
which
because they saw the
thankfully,
backlash of that whole thing that happened.
yeah. Which like they don't pump it like they're not full slamming the brakes, but it's slowed down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm
Which is the
excited
right
for
response that people need to have when stuff like this happens, instead of saying the fans are racist or sexist. Because
or doubling down.
yeah,
But, you know,
so because I don't think Amazon or the Invincible creator that is doing the show has said anything along those lines. Now, granted, this happened I think a
this is
couple
such a good
years
comic
ago,
though.
so
This
it
is such a
might
good
have
comic.
happened. I just don't remember. But
It's such a good show, such a good comic. Nothing to dislike, to be honest, other than Amber. But it's such a fun. It's hard for me to find new, like I guess, fandoms. So this
yeah,
is kind of one that I already found Invincible. Like I watched it like years ago when it first came out, but I'm kind of diving more into it as I've gotten the comic and stuff like that. So you know, but I will say I don't like the little gap that they did. This really doesn't have anything to do with season 1, but the gap that they did between season 2 and season well not no. The gap that they did in season 2, I don't like it because first and foremost, it's a cash grab. Like they're trying to get people to pay for Prime a little bit longer and then they incorporated ads. So like you see what they're doing there. The
Yeah.
story is that they needed more time to like animate season three, so that's like not a 2 year gap between the release of season two and season three. Which, if they did that, that's great. But like, admit that you're kind of doing a cash grab too. You know what I mean? But I mean, if they spend that time animating season three, so like we get it sooner, kudos to you. Like I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But it did kind of kill the hype a little bit of season two. But what are you gonna do? I liked it. I think you liked it. I liked it more, but it's fine.
So thank you for
Chef
watching this
preference.
episode of Galactic Reviews. Join us next time. We'll be reviewing the Adam Eve special. Does it have a name except just Adam Eve special? Just
It might have a name. I forget. It's been it was referred to as the Adam Eve special when I heard about it, and then
the
I've just
Adam
called it
Eve
that.
special.
Yeah. And season two, because that's
And
almost done.
season 2 of Invincible. So,
I gotta see if Robert has watched Invincible. I don't think he has.
well,
Oh
regardless,
well.
we'll see
See
you
y'all.
next time on Galactic Reviews.